But I related the Mars cycle and this Mars Cazimi, right? An exact conjunction. I related it to the myth of Heracles, right? Now, everyone knows of the mythical Hercules, right, from the Disney movies, and it's the Romanized version. But the Greek myth is pretty wild. And one of the reasons it came to me is because Alice Bailey, one of the, esoteric teachers I grew up on, she wrote the book Esoteric Astrology. And that's almost exclusively what I did for many years before I discovered ancient astrology, you see. So, and that's all about initiation, right? And the souls, I hate that word, it's about consciousness and its eventual victory over the material nature and re-identification with its source. So you may be familiar with the story of the prodigal son, right? And the whole thing about it is that, the son leaves his father's home with all of his inheritance and squanders it, right? On sex and drugs, let's say. And then he comes to his senses while eating pig slop. And he's like, yo, my dad's servants eat better than this. I'm just going to go and, be submissive and tell him I'll just work in his yard and I'll live in the, servants' quarters or whatever. Because back then, you had lots of servants, or some people had servants, right? So the son goes back, and when he's just walking up, his dad sees him from afar and just loses his shit. He's overjoyed, right? He's so happy that he turns to the older brother, right? And he says, yo, homie, look, your brother's coming back. I want you to go and slaughter the fattened calf. I want you to get the good wine out. I want you to call all the people over to come have a feast, And the older son's pissed. He's like, well, he didn't do anything. Why are we celebrating this fool? And the father said, you don't understand. My son was dead. And now he's alive again. You see? So it's sort of an indication or a symbolic depiction on our relationship with our creator or our source or whatever you want to say. It's like we left. We went deep into the world to discover, right? All of its pleasures and treasures. I love going deep myself, right? But then we come to our senses and realize that something is lacking. That we're missing. We're not engaged with the fragment of ourselves, right? That has been pervaded by whatever that source is. So, it's a wonderful symbol, you see. And in Hermetic philosophy and a lot of Western esotericism, it's sort of a similar cosmology. That everything issues from a common source. And that everything terminates in matter, only to then go back on the reverse wheel seeking, right? Consciousness seeking its source. And Ramana Maharshi, one of these gurus I followed for many years, he used to say, if you're seeking God earnestly with your whole heart and your whole mind, then you can be rest assured that God is seeking you with even more zeal and fervency. Is that a word? Even more passion. But anyway, in relation to this upcoming Mars Cazimi, this is the culmination of something. Because in the myth, right? Heracles, he has a fall from grace. He's the strongest, baddest guy. But Hera makes him crazy. And he hacks up his family, right? And then he realizes what he's done and he has to atone. And that's when he has to do the 12 labors. You see? That's when he does the 12 labors. And Alice Bailey, right, who I studied for many years, wrote a book called The Labors of Hercules. And she related each of those 12 labors to one of the zodiacal signs. And the whole thing she sort of illustrates as an allegory of initiation, right? Because Heracles is promised by Zeus, his father, the head god, right? He gets promised immortality. And immortality, the idea of it, right? That you don't die or whatever, that you don't change, that you become this immortal being. The whole idea of it is that you've reconnected with your source, or not even reconnected, been reabsorbed by it, right? That's your identification once again. I have no clue. That's all theoretical, that part. I have no clue what that feels like. But I can tell you what it feels like to be earnestly seeking and to have this sense that you're earnestly being sought, right? So anyway, but that's, no one really cares about that.